that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day folks, how are you? Happy Thursday to you. What an interesting day I had yesterday. Worked my ass off and managed to go to sleep, I don't know, in the chair. I don't know how far before the show. I was in the process of setting it up. I know that much. So it was probably after 5. And I've gone to sleep and stayed asleep until Skipper Pete rang me at about 8:30 last night. So thanks for waking me up, brother. Sorry I was late. So to you folks, my apologies. I was going to do a show early this morning, but things have been moving so rapidly on so many fronts that I didn't have time to do that either, unfortunately. But at least we got here tonight. So, and so did you. How spectacular it was. First in the house tonight. God, let me get back up the top and have a look. Aussie Sue, God love you. I hope life on the island is treating you well. Certainly a little bit nicer weather, even if it is a tad chilly, and I guess on the water it probably will be. God love you so much. And yes, as Aussie Sue says, folks, please like and subscribe. Share if you can. We would love you to share this out and help us break that bloody algorithm that is crippling us. We haven't quite hit, you can see how suppressed we really are here. We haven't hit that mark that we've been looking for. We've come close twice, and then for some reason or other, we start losing a few subscribers. Now, it's weird and the views on the channel are through the roof. Like they're like 100% more than normal, and yet it's not being reflected in other areas of their analytics. So we are being shafted in so many different ways. But anyway, we don't do it for their appreciation. We do it to try and keep you awake, keep you aware. And today I was lucky enough to go up and meet for lunch with one of you, one of our good friends of the family. And Timmy's a great man. I met him in Canberra a little while back, and he doesn't live too far from here, so we catch up occasionally. And today he wanted to share a message with everyone.
Fuck up, world.
That's pretty much what he thought. So, yeah, we are trying very hard to wake the world up. And is the world being woken up? Well, shit, there is a lot to talk about, and I guess it really depends on where you stand. And that was one of the questions that we were sort of talking about today with Tim. So we'll have a little bit of a chat with that. The gorgeous Sandy is in the house, our donkey mother. Is that a nice way of saying it? Hope everyone is warm. 1 degree this morning. Had to smash the ice off the donkeys. Oh, water troughs. Sorry. Line ended at the wrong spot. I was going to say it's a bit violent. But yes, lovely. Very cold morning for the donkeys, but I dare say you've got them in all the warm places, and they're definitely in the warm places in our heart. If you want to help out the donkeys, folks, they need feed, they need their feet looked after, they need veterinary care, they need all sorts of things, and all of it costs money, and we would like to help out here at the Voice of Freedom. You know how easy it is to do, and I think if we had 15 or maybe 20 people buy the remaining tickets, I think that's about all that's left, we would be able to give away another $750 in our lottery. We would love to be able to give that to you. The tickets are $2 each. And as I say, I think there's like if we had 15 or 20 people, I think buy the full amount of tickets, but double that for if you want to buy $10 worth, or even if you only want to buy one for $2, we would love to give you the opportunity to pick up 750 nicker. And as often as we can get up to that point and sell our 750 tickets, we will give away $750 to you. And then whatever's left, we're going to split that with Sandy and the office and the funds and everything else that needs to be paid before any of us get anything. And I can't tell you how much I love the idea that we're helping out with the Donkey Sanctuary. I've got a soft spot for the donkeys ever since I saw May's baby photos, I think, and moved on from there. And then she became a star, of course, and doesn't talk to me anymore, but that's how it is. Tony. Yes, we did have a bit of a chat yesterday, and I am feeling better. Feeling better after a nice sleep. Ridiculous. I must be getting older, folks. I've been doing a bit of stuff with trees and wood chippers and chainsaws and whatnot in the last few days, and I think it probably just caught up to me a bit. But anyway, that's all the fun. Deb, has anyone heard about Alberta and Saskatchewan getting serious about separation from Canada? Yes. Alberta has been pushing this now probably a bit longer than Saskatchewan, but Saskatchewan are catching up quickly. Will it be allowed to happen? Look, I'd hesitate to ever say no, that'll never happen. But given that, Canada is such a strange country, part of the Commonwealth, and yet is French speaking in half of the country, basically. It's a weird little setup. Don't quite understand it, but whether or not they will be able to, and I don't think Alberta or Saskatchewan incorporates the French-speaking side of the country. I'm pretty sure it's the other way. So will they actually achieve it? Who knows? Will the Canadians allow it, the Canadian government? I don't know. We've had people who've tried to cede from the States. There's one in Western Australia. I think there's a lot of people who've ceded from Australia through the common law channels. Will it work? Watch this space, I guess. Every little bit is helping wake us up, and maybe this is just another thing for the normies to look at and say, what? How is Alberta doing that? And why are they doing that? And why is Saskatchewan following them? What's so bad in Canada? And maybe that'll wake a few more Canadians up on the ground. That's a large part of the conversation that Tim and I had today. He's getting a bit frustrated, as we all are, that we know we're ready for what comes next, but there are so many who aren't. And yes, we do have to wait for them. And of course, there is a plan in all of this, God's plan in all of this. And we'll be the last to know, I think, about God's plan coming to fruition. But we are seeing so many things being thrown up in media, in alt media, in just normies walking along the street filming stuff for the first time, saying, what the hell's going on here? And there is a lot of mainstream media head shaking with what appears to be going on in Washington at the moment. So let's start there and progress our way forward. Although I did want to say good day to a few more people in the chat. I'm sorry I haven't said hello to everyone. Tony's in there. Andrew D's in there. What the? I've got your email. What the? I haven't watched that video yet. Thank you, though. I will check it out. The lovely Michelle Bradley Smith, and I know I've seen Sunflower in there too. Haven't seen Vincent tonight. Don't know what he's up to. Hello, Margot. Hope you are well. The lovely Donna, Angie, and Paul. Mate, you must be rubbing your hands together at the moment. What's going on here? Silver running out in the COMEX. Only 130 million ounces. That's very little when you consider that's less than a day's trading. Wow. What can I say, folks? Buy silver. Buy it now. Buy as much of it as you possibly can. That I'm no financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I don't give it. I have a gut feeling that if I had the money, I would be walking in there and buying it by the bloody kilo, I can tell you. At the moment, $58.47 is the spot price. If we were going to buy a kilo of it, it would cost $1,879.85 at spot. So that's walking in and basically buying just a unfinished or minted bar, if you like, just something that might be a little older, something that's come out of stock, but still 4 nines and 100% value. So if I had that money, I'd be going there and doing that tomorrow. So far, since I think it's the 31st of March, the gold-silver ratio has dropped from, I think it was around 107 to now just on 88. Now, it was 87.82 a little earlier, so it's gone up just a fraction. But that 88 and the gold-silver ratio is the number you want to watch. As that keeps coming down, your silver is going to become a lot more valuable. And look, I don't think we've had that little dip that I was talking about the other night too. This is only my observations. Bear this in mind. My observations, but from what I've been reading, and I watch a lot of the Ainsley advice that comes through the Ainsley Analytics people. Their Ainsley newsletter is amazingly good with information and market analysis of what's actually going on. And I've got to say, Chris Tipper and the team do just an amazing job of making what is a terribly detailed analysis really easy to understand for somebody like me who doesn't deal with numbers terribly well. And it's not real hard to get the bottom line meaning out of everything they're saying. Silver is moving up and moving rapidly. Gold at the moment sitting at 51.4608, so it has gone up about $30, but silver is outstripping gold increases at the moment hand over fist. So please do yourself the proverbial favour, log into ainslieybullion.com.au. If you can buy 1 coin, if you can buy 1 gram, if you can buy 1 ounce, if you can buy 1 kilo, you are going to be in a much better place in the days and weeks ahead for having it than not having it. And don't forget, if you don't happen to have the cash right up front, you can have the Ainsley Saver option, which allows you to put in money fractionally and buy little bits at a time, and eventually you'll have enough that you can go and take it all out. It's always a nice little option. There'll be more Ainsley events coming up shortly too, and they asked me the other day whether or not I wouldn't mind turning up to a couple of them. So watch this space. As soon as they tell me where and when, I'll be coming along. One of those will definitely be on the Gold Coast in August when the opening of the new Ainsley Bullion Gold Coast store happens. So looking forward to being able to bring that to you live when they open the store. It'll be a big night out. Gonna love it. Oh, my Lord, Sunflower, what have you been doing? I'm just going to listen tonight. My hands are too sore from shoveling and moving 2 cubic meters of something. Clay fill. Bloody hell, girl. Yes, well, you give your hands a rest. Maybe put them in ice. Or ice might be a bit hard this time of the year, but wow. The link to buy tickets. Oh, I'm very sorry. That's a bit slack of me. I could have put that up for you right away. If you want to buy tickets in the lottery, it's very simple to do. I will post it in the chat right this second. Bang. It's also in the description if you want to have a look. It's pretty easy, merch.vof.com, and then look across the top. You'll see the Sanctuary $750 link there. Click on that. And for $2, you will go into the draw. You can buy a maximum of 20 tickets in any one draw because we would like to try and share the money around as much as possible. Phil Cook won it last time. P before that, I think. Maybe we've given one more away. I don't know if we've had 2 or 3. I think it might be 2. So we'd like you to be our third lucky winner, please. Help us, help the Donkey Sanctuary, and help keep us on the air. That's basically where we're at with it. All right, let's get into this evening's little proceedings a bit, shall we? And there has been a lot happening. We woke up this morning with news of Pam Bondi. Well, yesterday afternoon is probably a better place to start. Yesterday afternoon, there was a lot of analysis out of America about what's going on in the Trump administration regarding the FBI, the DOJ, and the Epstein files. The Epstein files are not going to go away. And as you all know, recently, both Pam Bondi, the head of the DOJ, and Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, have come out and said there are no Epstein files. There is no secret client list. There's yada, 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 yada. This, in the face of all the evidence that they themselves had provided in the lead up while they were in opposition, while they were fighting to become elected, and once they had been elected and put into these positions, they were still putting out information saying, yeah, we have this, we have that, we have the other. And an Epstein client list was, according to Pam Bondi, sitting on her desk. Now, she is saying now that she didn't mean there was a client list sitting on desk, just the Epstein file was sitting on her desk, and she needed to go through that and make sure that none of the victims, and there were over 1,000 victims that were identified, were going to be identified in any public release. That was the excuse she gave not to put the files out at the time. I played that for you the other night. Kash Patel supported an announcement the other day that there are no client lists when it is regard to Jeffrey Epstein, and we've seen Donald Trump react very poorly the other day by telling everybody he can't believe people are still interested in this creep. It's a nothing burger. It's move on, move on, move on. Nothing to see here. That has blown up in his face in a mega way, not a MAGA, a mega way. Now even Republicans, his own party, are calling for this. Now, late yesterday evening, there was a lot of talk coming out of Washington, D.C. that somebody was going to get fired, and that is still likely to happen. Who is going to get fired? Well, I would have ordinarily said quite a few people, but the Donald Trump that seems to be in charge of America at the moment isn't the Donald Trump that everybody voted for. Because today, while he was sitting down taking a dump and as his first duty on Truth Social, he's essentially come out and called the Epstein client list a hoax. He blamed it on something the Democrats had written up and was supported in part by a CIA operation, a bit like Russia, and designed to be a distraction for all and sundry. Once again, he thought it was a waste of people's time to be hung up on this creep. Move on, get away from it. And if you're one of my supporters and you can't move on, you can't believe that this was a hoax, then I don't want you as a supporter. Yeah, what? Now, that isn't the Donald Trump that we've seen over the last 10 years. The Donald Trump that we've seen is quite a politically savvy animal. He reads the public exceptionally well, and he doesn't let his advisors, in a lot of cases, mute him because of that audience that he can see and appreciate. He will not tone down his speech, or at least hasn't toned down his speech previously, but now all of a sudden he is. Now, all of a sudden, instead of being against Israel, he's all for Israel. Now, instead of being against NATO and against Ukraine, continuing this bullshit fight with Russia, he's for that, and is quoted, I don't know how accurately, as saying in a meeting with Vladimir, whatever his name is, Zelensky, he has basically said, could you hit Moscow or St. Petersburg? And Zelensky has apparently said, sure, if you give us the missiles, we'll fire them. This is not the Donald Trump that the world is expecting to drain the swamp, I don't think. This is a Donald Trump who is very deeply in the swamp, trying to bail a lot more water over the bottom, because the bottom is starting to shine through and it's looking pretty dirty, pretty filthy, pretty disgusting. And why would Donald Trump change minds like that? Well, that goes down and back to a whole heap of conspiracy theories. Which Donald Trump are we referring to? Now, there have been many reports of Donald Trump's death over the years. Donald Trump died. The first report I remember hearing was that Donald Trump died in 1989. His first wife at the time, he died in a helicopter accident. His first wife at the time, was that Marla? Somebody like that. Or maybe that was one of the girls he went out with at some stage. I don't know. Ivanka's mother. She divorced him, you might remember. And at the time, she divorced him because she said he's not the same man. Now, this aircraft crash, or this helicopter crash in 1989, wasn't publicized. And it was known at the time that Trump did have a double, somebody that he employed. And at the time, they think that double stepped in, and so began Trump's workings in the New York property markets. From there have been reports that Trump has been killed at least 3 more times over a number of years. And then this is all prior to his deciding to run for presidential election back in 2015. From 2015, there have also been a number of attempts. Some may have been successful, but the conspiracy theory is that the deep state, and I suppose the white hats, have the ability to clone. They also have the ability to put masks on people, and God knows, there was so much evidence of mask wearing during the Biden administration. Why wouldn't we think there is evidence of the Trump administration? I've shown you evidence here in this show, particularly while Trump was in Saudi Arabia addressing the Saudi Wealth Fund and a great international group of investors, an investor summit, where he stood beside the Prince of Saudi Arabia, the current leader of the country, a white hat from all intents and purposes, who stands 6 foot tall. Donald Trump stands well more than 6 feet. But in this shot, Donald Trump was shorter than the prince. Now, Donald Trump wasn't stooping. They were standing side by side. He wasn't, standing on a lower stage. Do you think Donald Trump would allow somebody to stand higher than him? Not likely. So who was that bloke at that meeting? There is a school of thought that the real Donald Trump, if he didn't die in 1989, or even if he did die in 1989, the one that took over from him then is ostensibly the real Trump. And the white hat story for that is that he is buried deep in Battle Mountain and hasn't been outside of that location unless it has been for certain events. And the way that you tell whether or not it's the real Trump or not, or the one they're putting forward as the real Trump, is if Melania is with him, because she doesn't travel with any of the ones that aren't the real Trump. Is he dead? Is he alive? Who is in power? Well, I don't know, but it gets pretty wild. Pam Bondi, this morning, our time, that is the head of the DOJ, decided she would act, and she fired the prosecutor of the Epstein files, the Epstein cases. And we all thought, wow. But then the next words out of her mouth were the name of the prosecutor. And that prosecutor's name is Maureen Comey. Does that name ring a bell to you? No, not the wife, the daughter of James Comey, former FBI director James Comey, former Russiagate, oh, it's all true Comey, former I'll protect Hillary Clinton till the end director Comey. His daughter was in charge of the Epstein file or the Epstein prosecution. So what are they going to do about this? They've talked themselves into a hell of a place with it. We know so many files have been found. We know that the entire case, going back years, has been tainted by corrupt FBI, corrupt DOJ, and probably corrupt police at state levels. It has passed through so many hands and fingers, had so many deletions, so many additives, so many bits and pieces, that anything to come out of those files now by what would be an independent investigation would be useless. And that is probably in part what they're saying with their release of there are no files, there is no client list. Well, it turns out that Elon Musk believes that there definitely should be a client list, as most Americans do. The mainstream media talk on the client list is through the roof. More people are waking up to this client list and more unawake Americans, and hopefully the rest of the world, are starting to wake up to the fact that if Donald Trump was on or in those client list files, the Democrats would have released them while they had the power during the Biden administration to do so. They would have done it. They may have had to sacrifice one or two of their own, but it would have been worth it to get rid of Trump. And they didn't. Why didn't they? Because his name isn't there going to Epstein Island. It is there traveling from New York to Florida and I think one other state. Most of those, or at least I think there are 5 or 6 flights in all dating back to the 90s. He's never flown on the Lolita Express in the 2000s or the noughties. I think the last flight was 1987 or 8. And those flights were New York, Florida, I guess, commuter flights, you could probably call them, because he was living down there as well. And so obviously did Epstein have his place down there. They were both into property management, property development rather, in New York. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they knew each other. In fact, quite likely, and we know that they did. If he had have gone to Epstein Island and participated in anything that he could have been blackmailed for, Epstein would have had that video, that audio, those pictures. It's clear those don't exist. If they did, the Democrats would have released them while Biden was in power and decimated Trump's attempt to be re-elected last year. So let's put aside that argument. Oh, he doesn't want it released because he's on there. Bullshit. He's not on there. All right? Not in any meaningful way. There are a lot of other people who are. And Elon Musk, to his credit, decided he needed to be able to find a way to prove that the government knew more than what they were telling. And what did he do? He turned to his new AI baby, Grok. And I've got to say, fairly smart. He first asked Grok who went to Epstein Island and when. So Grok gave him a bit of a broad answer, and I didn't use Grok, I used ChatGPT, and got pretty much similar answers. Verified visitors and dates: Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Donald Trump, although the flight log says there he only went between mainland locations. There's never any evidence that he went to Epstein Island. Alan Dershowitz, Jean-Luc Brunel, David Copperfield, the magician, Jess Staley, and that's just the number that it brought up there straight away. It says not everyone that appears on the flight logs necessarily went to the island. Okay. Many flights were between mainland locations. Righto, I understand that. The presence of someone on the logs or contact books does not imply wrongdoing. In many cases, flights were social, business, or innocent in context. I'm not sure how ChatGPT would know that. At any rate, it's given me these names and their likelihood of being on the island. Bill Clinton, possibly yes. Prince Andrew, confirmed yes. Donald Trump, no evidence. Alan Dershowitz, very likely yes. Jean-Luc Brunel, frequent flights, yes. David Copperfield visited in 1993, yes. And Jess Staley visited in 2015, yes. It also points out that a number of documents remain sealed or redacted. Court filings and deposition records provide greater clarity. So, once again, Musk decided there must be a way to try and figure this out. And very cleverly, he asked it, would that mean that the government right now knows the names and ages of everyone who's travelled on the Epstein plane? Because they have all the flight logs. They know all the names. The only names we have been looking for are celebrity names, the ones that we will recognise. Have we been looking for the names of the victims who would have travelled on those planes as well, or on that plane? Now, that is a very, very good question. Would that mean the government right now, as we speak, knows the names and the ages of all those who travelled on Epstein's plane? In other words, they have a list of all the unaccompanied minors on those flights, along with a list of all the adults on those flights. And Grok came back with yes. The DOJ and the FAA hold extensive passenger manifests and flight logs from Epstein's jets, including names from 1991 to 2020. Ages aren't always listed, but can be verified via investigations and victim statements, identifying unaccompanied minors among 250 plus exploited girls, the AI responded. After more questioning, the AI cited a Department of Justice memo saying there were over 1,000 victims in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. So, Musk asked Grok, over 1,000 confirmed young victims is shockingly large. In order for the government to confirm that the girls were victimized, they would have had to have a name and at least describe and at least a description of who raped them. Yes, this would be necessary and means that the government must have a list of rapists, aka the Epstein client list, in their possession right now. Victim confirmation relies on testimonies, forensic evidence, and settlements. DOJ's July memo states that no centralized client list exists, but unredacted files detail named abusers of victim statements. Full disclosure withheld to protect the survivors, says Grok. Protect the survivors? I'm pretty sure that the survivors are going to want as much of that as they can. It didn't end there. Because there is no real, Grok and ChatGPT didn't give it any, there's no really earth-shattering proof of who was there. It gives a lot of free room to say, oh, well, people might have been there, they might not have been there. But you might remember there was a mobile phone data release, a leak of all the phone pings that came off Epstein Island. And Little St. James had quite a lot of pings. Nearly 200 mobile devices were tracked arriving at Little St. James Island between July 2016 and Epstein's arrest on July 6th of 2019. 200 mobile devices in that time. They had over 11,000 coordinated pings from the island. Now, that data also mapped out phone routes from 80 cities across 26 states, including locations like Trump Tower, Martha's Vineyard, and homes in Florida, Michigan, and Massachusetts. The names attached to the devices are not publicly known. However, the leak confirms physical visits for many of the individuals, not merely the flight log data, which the AIs have said doesn't confirm that people went there or not, much less than what they went there for. So there is a list that is capable of being shown to people, but has it been coordinated? Will they put it together? I don't know. The Pam Bondi thing is interesting, that she's fired Maureen Comey, the Epstein prosecutor, but firing her is very different to bringing her up on charges if she didn't do her job correctly or whatever. Now, there are some calls for Pam Bondi to be resigned. Don't think that Trump supports that. He has come out swinging pretty hard today in her defense, and he believes that Kash Patel is also doing wonderful things. Dan Bongino, on the other hand, is still mightily pissed off with the DOJ and their handling of this whole Epstein saga. And he is probably the loose cannon. The talk is there could be one or two resignations, Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino, or either of them. Dan Bongino is a real loose cannon, because if you let him out of the FBI like that, pissed off like he is going to refuse to sign any document that says you can't talk about this, and he is going to go back to his very, very well-supported media channel, and he will start talking about it, at least to the greatest extent that he physically can. I think he will put himself in a great deal of danger to do this. Whether or not they sack him, whether or not he resigns, I think we will find out by the end of this week American time. And it'll be a big day out if Dan Bongino quits, because he will have a lot to bring to the party, and he'll throw a lot more incendiary liquid on the flyer. A lot more. And I guess a fire in Washington, D.C. at the moment is... well, par for the course, really. There are fires happening all over America. There are earthquakes. There are warnings coming out left and right. Now, today there was an earthquake just off Alaska that resulted in a 7.3 scale quake at a depth of, I think it was about 10 kilometers or 10 miles again. This was off the southern point of the Alaskan chain of islands, almost due south of Anchorage, Alaska, and it generated a tsunami warning that thankfully did not result in any major loss of life or property or anything else. One of the bigger Alaskan islands, Kodiak Island, was put on alert. There are 5,000 residents on Kodiak, and they were all put on alert for evacuation should a tsunami be coming. Or just to get to higher ground. I'm sure that there would have been a couple of hills up there. There was also thoughts that there might be consequences with the quake going down the coast of Canada, the Alaskan, Canadian, and then into the Californian coastal areas. But it turns out that fear did not materialize, and they didn't have to worry about that too much. Well, it's indicative. Why are we talking about it? Well, it's indicative of the movement, and this is new movement, right? There is new movement happening every day in different parts of the world. New things are shaking. New volcanoes or old volcanoes are doing new things they've never done before. Now, that's true for something in Ethiopia. That's true for what's happening in Alaska, and it's true for what's happening in Yellowstone Park. There are a number of very active sites around the world at the moment, and probably the most active, the most dangerous at the moment is something called Campi Flegrei in Italy. Now, it is a super volcano that takes over a very large area of the southern region of Italy and a fairly sizable portion of the Mediterranean. There is a city called Pozzuoli that is being affected rather badly by it at the moment, not because there is lava raining down from the skies, but because gas and heat is coming up from underground and literally melting the roads. Now, the Italian geo and volcanic agency responsible for measuring and keeping an eye on all things volcanic and earthquakey in that region has been dead quiet over the last few weeks. But this Campi Flegrei area, it has been coming alive and doing some pretty wild, albeit moderate to minor eruptions. Now, a lot of dirt, a lot of dust, a lot of smoke, and a little bit of lava. But there are quakes, and those quakes are indicating shifting magma, and we spoke about some of this the other night off the coast of Japan. This is a similar deal. Large amounts of magma, that's liquid stone, lava, is moving underground, creating new chambers. As that sort of thing is happening, the ground above it is shifting, is moving. And obviously there are tectonic plate involvements here as well, and these things are coming to life. Now that agency in Italy has finally come out and said this is a significant incident. What is going on in that area at the moment of the supervolcano, and a supervolcano is a bloody huge volcano. It has a caldera, that outer area of it, that stretches out over 100 miles. That means if it blows, it could have a 100-kilometer hole in the earth. Essentially, it won't be that big, but that's what it could do. That's what these super volcanoes are like. Yellowstone is another one, and it's coming back to life. There are more gushers, more hot geysers, hot spring geysers going off every day, and some very big blows, if that's what you want to call it, have happened again in the area where some people were killed a couple of years ago in Yellowstone National Park. Now, it's a geographic area of great significance. The whole of that area is unstable and has been unstable, known to be unstable for many, 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 many years. I think since every white man moved there. Nothing's going to change that. If Yellowstone were to go up as a supervolcano, and it is a supervolcano, I think it's one of the largest in the world, that too would be catastrophic for the United States. Infrastructure, good portion of the West Coast completely gone would be what would happen there. It's coming back to life. There has been a twin volcano in Ethiopia that in the last 24 hours, a very, very beautiful lava lake, or two very beautiful lava lakes that tourists have been able to go to. So it is an active volcano, but the lava merely bubbles. It's like a mud lake, a hot mud lake rather than a hot lava lake. But that's essentially what they've had in Ethiopia, twin craters. Well, they've come to life, and now those twin craters are bubbling their lava 60 to 100 meters in the air and getting stronger and stronger all the time. They're also putting out a large amount of ash and smoke. So this is something that hasn't been seen in quite a long time for those in particular. Of course, we are seeing volcanoes in Bali becoming active. We are getting earthquake and tsunami warnings coming out of Japan. We are getting earthquake warnings coming off the coast between West Papua and Indonesia. In fact, only 2 or 3 days ago, there was a 7.3 Richter scale earthquake in that region between West Papua and the islands of Indonesia, and that also impacted parts of East Timor. This is where tsunami dangers were also put out, or tsunami alerts were put out. And there was, for a time, an alert put down for the northern coast of Australia, but I don't think it lasted terribly long. So there is a lot happening in the world. The world is blowing up, and then there is another one that's happening in El Salvador, and this is called a phreatic eruption, I think is how you say it. Now, this is essentially an eruption that is steam, water, and mud in nature, but it is exceptionally hot, searingly hot. So there has been these mud pits that in El Salvador, very beautiful touristy area that people have been going to for years and years and years, and they've never done anything remotely like get excited. Well, the mud pits are very excited now. In fact, yesterday there was a huge phreatic eruption, and a massive amount of boiling mud, boiling water, and steam went through this tourist area. Luckily, nobody was hurt. The people that were there were able to escape. I've seen some vision of one bloke who decided he'd just go and crouch behind a wall as this wall of steam, searingly hot steam, came over the top of him. I watched until the end, and he did survive. He got up and was able to walk away rather briskly when the steam sort of dissipated a bit. But that's things that we don't think about. We don't think about the heat, the steam, that kind of thing. But that's what's highly possible and more than probable in that sort of a scenario. So we have so much stuff going on in the world at the moment regarding the Earth moving. We've heard stories of pole shifts. We've heard stories of, I nearly said aliens coming, meteors and all that sort of stuff on the way to us right now. It's all part of the movie, is it? Okay, well, we've heard of people getting killed on movie sets before. God help us if Alec Baldwin's in charge of this one. I would say, as somebody I just saw in the chat said, don't go on holidays in the Pacific. I wouldn't be going on holidays in the Pacific. I wouldn't be going on holidays anywhere around the Mediterranean. I would be very careful about going to Spain, because right now the people of Spain have had enough. Recently, some locals, elderly folks, were beaten, robbed, and nearly murdered by a group of immigrants. These were Moroccan immigrants who banded themselves into a gang, and they beat and robbed these people on the streets. One of them may have, in fact, died. Over the last weekend, over the last few days, the Spanish people have risen up, and there are hundreds of thousands of them now out protesting about the immigration policies of the Spanish government. They want re-immigration. They want to send these bastards home, as they should. They've had enough of their country being taken over, and their protests are very clear. Spain is a Christian country and will remain a Christian country, because at the moment there does seem to be a concerted push to have that changed, not just in Spain, but in Germany, in France, in Belgium, the Netherlands, and many other places in Europe. Why? Because the EU are driving this bullshit. Did you know the UK have just been given the title, and they'll be so proud, of the rape capital of Europe? Let that sink in. You want to go on holidays to the UK? It is the rape capital of Europe. Now, that's not because all the POMs have decided to stop watching the cricket and go out and rape people. It's not the white English people who are going out in great part and doing this. It is through the influx of illegal and unconstitutional immigration into the UK. And Australia is in exactly the same basket. We are seeing in Melbourne now gangs of African youths running around with machetes that you're not allowed to buy in Victoria anymore, but clearly there's a bit of a stash somewhere, and they don't care. They would come to a fight with a sharpened shovel. All right? The quality of the weapon, if you're not allowed to have a machete, they'll find something else to use. My God, you could kill someone with a stick. We are seeing large areas of our country, large suburbs, being turned into little areas of whatever previous country these people have come from. Now, that used to be quite cute in Melbourne when I was a kid growing up. You know, if you wanted to go and eat Turkish, you went, to Coburg or Heidelberg or somewhere like that. If you wanted to go and eat Greek, you went somewhere else. If you wanted to go and eat French, well, I don't think there were too many good French restaurants in Melbourne. If you wanted steak, yeah, probably went to St Kilda. Now you'd be lucky to be able to go in there and have a meal. There are enclaves all over Melbourne where you and I are simply not welcome, and Sydney, and starting to happen in other states, including Brisbane. So had somebody telling me about that yesterday. Now, I haven't been there and seen that with my own eyes, but wouldn't mind taking a look if that is the case. And next time I'm in Brisbane, which hopefully will be one day next week, I might just take a drive past and see if that is the case. There are fights now happening in corner stores that have been taken over by new Australians and who have changed everything to do with the store and are deliberately alienating Australian customers. They are, I'm now not stocking anything for Aussies anymore, was the one quote, and they're only stocking for their particular ethnicity. Now, these are corner stores that have been in operation for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years in some cases, that have been family-run operations, and for whatever reason, they've had to get out, sold out, or been taken out by the big supermarkets. Now, because they see a perceived hole in the market, they can buy these little milk bars, these corner shops, we've all got one in every little town, and hopefully you've got one not too many streets away from you. They're buying those and then they're turning them into their own supermarkets, their own cultural supermarket, if you like, and excluding Aussies, unless you happen to like their food. And if you like their food, well, then maybe you'll come to our church. And maybe if you come to our church, you might pray to our God. And if that's okay, well, you'll be allowed to do what you want to do. It's happening here in Australia. We might be lagging behind a little bit, but how long before Australia becomes the rape capital of the Southern Hemisphere? Because it's happening. We know that the police are reticent to give details of ethnicity in some of the crimes that are committed, particularly against women. We know the courts are all about protecting the privacy of the criminals committing these heinous crimes against women and others. What are we doing about it? No, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, there is stuff we can do about it. Getting out on the streets is probably the first thing we can do about it. But we don't beg, we demand. And who are you going to go to demand these changes? Because the people who could actually make these changes, the politicians, well, I don't think they're even back in Canberra on Saturday when we expect the government to be ratified by the AEC. They'll be back at some stage next week, and they're not going to do anything to help us. The bureaucrats aren't on our side. They don't work for us anymore. They've never worked for us. Well, not since 1973. The criminal cabal will be back in charge next month. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to tell jokes about Anthony Albanese. The joke's on us. The joke's on us. Speaking of Albo Sleazy, John Bolton, who you might remember was the NSA advisor, the National Security Advisor for Donald Trump, at least partly in his first term, has come out and made a statement about Albo Sleazy going off and meeting Trump. There's been a huge push from our Australian media and others to get Trump and Albo Sleazy together for a talk. Trump's not interested. Albo flew all the way to Canada for it and got stood up. It wasn't a waste, though. He got to go and press hands and suck coffee with other world leaders, particularly the ones from the EU that he liked to gather in close. And then, of course, that slime Zelensky was there. He's probably committed another, 15 million cardboard drones and as many of our M1 Abrams tanks as that he feel he can give away. We've only got 49 of them, so I'm sure he's going to help give it a few more. Well, he might give away a few more Bushmasters. That's a bit easier. Anyway, John Bolton is saying, do not go and have a talk with Trump, Albo, until you've figured out your life, the universe, and every other little thing. And that means getting in line with what Trump is doing around the world with tariffs. If you don't fall into line with what he wants, then you're going to be tariffed out of existence. Now, does that mean Australia is going to be tariffed out of existence? Certainly in some areas we will, yeah. They want Big Pharma to move all pill processing, if you like, back to the United States. Australia has been doing a huge amount of that. And in fact, in Melbourne, there is a new Commonwealth Serum Labs being built, or probably is finished by now, that is producing all sorts of drugs, and some might suggest adrenochrome, out of its new facility. So what do? How do we bring people's attention to this? How do we wake more people up? I guess all we can do is keep going. If it is something that you feel the need to protest about, then I'm not a big fan of begging for my rights back. I have said on a number of occasions, if you see me at a protest, I'm pretty confident it'll be because I'm there to take my rights back. I'm not there to ask for them. And that means that any protest like that would necessarily be a fairly long endeavour. I don't think it's going to be over and done within an hour or two. It might be a day, a week, a month, a year. So I'm torn over the idea of going to protest for something, but you've got to feed the media, don't you? You've got to give the normies something to look at. You've got to give them something to shake their hands at and say, oh, they're all stupid. They're all conspiracy theorists. Look at their tin hats. And then maybe there'll be a bit of truth that comes through that. Because that's essentially what I believe we are seeing in some of the farces that are playing out supposedly as political theatre at the moment in the public. The only thing you really need to watch is the price of gold and silver. That's your biggest tell. Take no notice of the script playing out around you. It's just theatre. And I couldn't be more sure of it now than I was years ago when I started saying this. It is theatre. Yes, the theatre does have a certain effect on us, but it's a much more moderate effect on us compared to the effect that it has on the governments that are riding roughshod over us. That pressure is being applied by Trump directly to every government in the world. Now, the ones that are falling into line, in theory, are the ones that are now doing the right thing. And that's what we believed had been happening up until the last couple of weeks. But Trump and his complete backflip with Netanyahu and the Jewish state, the Zionists, has shocked a lot of people. And this has all been since his big, beautiful bill passed. Now, while the Republicans have enough numbers to pass legislation unhindered, why was this bill so tough to get passed? Now, obviously, there's a lot of big hits in it. The big, beautiful bill takes money away from a lot of big, beautiful things and redistributes it. Some would say badly. It also increases the US national debt by over $1 trillion, bringing their debt astronomically high to a point where they'll never be able to pay that debt off, not in their lifetime or the lifetimes of their children or their children's children. And Trump now, with his big, beautiful bill, has added to that. Now, that big, beautiful bill took a long time to get negotiated and passed for a group of politicians that have all the power to pass such a thing at will. It took a long time to get through. When it was passed, we saw Trump do a backflip. All of a sudden, he was welcoming Bibi Netanyahu into the White House and being given the Nobel Peace Prize nomination by him. All of a sudden, he's back with his arm around Bibi, or can I call you Benny, and embracing the Zionist ideals that have been spewing forth out of the Israeli government for years, but more intensely in the last 12 months than ever I've seen before in my life. He is now embracing the Zionist ideas and attitudes. There is still a war going on with Iran. It's not a hot war. They're not throwing missiles at each other or firing bullets, but there is a war going on in the background. And don't forget, Israel is now trying to placate the world with Gaza. And how the hell are they going to do that? Well, they're going to kill more Palestinians. That's how they're going to do that. Of course they are. And they're going to go after a bit of Syria as well, just for a bit of fun. There is a deal, supposedly, that's been done with the Turks that will help the Turks take over a certain part of Syria and will help the Israelis take over a certain part of Syria. And as long as the Russians don't get involved and don't get upset, Turkey's quite happy to help Israel do what it needs to do. So watch that little part of the world, because we're going to see that heat up in the near future as well. Where is Donald Trump in all of this? Seems to be on the bandwagon supporting it. Rah-rah team. It's almost a 180-degree backflip. Would you think, even in the wildest movies, that if your plot line did that sort of a wild backflip right in front of you, if this was all being played out inside an hour and a half or 2 hours, wouldn't you start thinking, wow, there's something really weird going on here? Well, I hope that's what's happening in America. I hope that's what's happening with the world, because if it doesn't, it isn't happening like that, then there is probably a significant chance that the world's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And speaking to some of my very well-versed and very knowledgeable Christian friends, I don't want to call them religious. They are Christian friends. These are very knowledgeable, learned people on Scripture, and not just any Scripture. They study and have studied many different types of Scriptures, but they always go back to what they deem to be the original, and that would be the King James Bible. So I'm hopeful that my new KVJ was going into a KJV, whatever it is, turning up shortly, maybe this week, maybe next week. And I did say to some people who have asked me to keep reading and doing a few things and putting it up, a bit like that To Whom I May Concern thing. If you haven't seen that, To Whom It May Concern, it's one of the links available on the VOF YouTube channel. That is just something that came to me, somebody sent. I don't know who the author was, and I would always credit them if I do. I just read that because I thought it was a very powerful and motivating and moving piece of prose. So if I come across things like that, or you send them to me, I'm very happy to do that. And there are a few other things I'm looking at reading, including this version of the Bible, which will be a thee, thy, thou kind of version. We'll do a little bit of education on how your ear can learn how to interpret that, because we're not used to hearing that language, and there is a reason for that language. There is a reason that language no longer exists in the Bibles that are remade today, and that all comes down to spelling. And I'm not talking about how you spell Bible, I'm talking about how you cast spells. So it's a very interesting topic. It's very, very in-depth. And for those people who've been holding a New Testament Bible all of their lives and have never looked at the Old Testament, they find it quite shocking. Thankfully, I'm becoming aware. People have used terminology to me, I'm going to Bible study. All my life, I'm going to Bible study. Now, I always assumed that was a bunch of people sitting around studying the same Bible. It had been my experience that that's what Bible class was about. You all sat around, you read a piece of the Bible, and then you discussed what happened in that. It turns out that there is another type of Bible study group that has many members scattered all across the world. And these Bible study groups study various Bibles and compare the differences between them. Now, we've spoken before previously, maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, but I'll mention it again just in case. Every time a new Bible comes out, it must have been changed 30% different to the previous Bible. Otherwise, it can't be copyrighted. How can you make money out of something if it's not copyrighted? That should be your first trick. If your Bible is copyrighted, it's not a good Bible, because the Bible can't be copyrighted. And the King James Bible is not copyrighted. You won't see a copyright tab in any of its pages. Why? Well, for a variety of reasons, but it is known as the first English translation. And while there are a number of books missing out of the English translated Bible, the Gnostic Bible as it is known, those missing books, then it is the most complete Christian Bible available. So I'm thinking about reading that and being able to put that up if people would like to hear the Bible page by page. It'll probably take a long time. I'm not going to sit down and do it in a week. I might sit down and do, a couple of chapters and load them up verse by verse, or however it sort of works. We'll have to see how long it takes me to get my head around how to read it. And then there's a little bit of production involved to cut out my falling over and my ums and my ahs, and make sure that it's not a pain in the ass for you to listen to. But if you'd like that, keep an ear out. Somebody suggested that I should put that behind a paywall so that people could help us out by paying a few shekels to listen to that. It won't be going behind any paywall. For those folks, and I know you're very well-meaning, there are a lot of folks who want to help, and a paywall is a great way to help. A lot of folks have said start a Patreon. Love to support you with a Patreon. I've said before, and I've been consistent in this from the day I started, while I would undoubtedly make money, I don't know whether it'd be good, bad, or indifferent, but I would undoubtedly make money if I did those sorts of things. I would invariably or inevitably have to put any information I get behind that paywall. And that means that if you don't pay your subscription, or you don't have whatever amount it is to get behind that paywall in your account every month, then you're not going to get that information. And I won't have that. I've been that. I am that person. There are so many things I cannot afford every month. It's, I'm just like you, right? And to be asked to afford a subscription or a whatever to a Patreon or whatever, I won't do it, because I will not deny people the information that I get from time to time. Now, you might suggest that some of the information, in small or large part, is complete crap, and I'm of no use whatsoever to you. And if that's the case, thank God you're not paying for it. But for those who do get some value out of what I say and do some action and derive a benefit from it, bloody great. And I will not ever put that behind a paywall and separate. I won't separate people who can afford it from people who can't. Everybody deserves this information, whether you've got $2 in the bank or 200 million in the bank. It doesn't matter. And if you decide you want to help us in the process, then there are plenty of ways you can do it. You can go to vofhq.com and hit the donate button. You can become a member from as little as $2.50 a week. Or if you just want to spend $2 or $20 or $40 or anything in between, you can go over and buy a ticket in our raffle, which will hopefully net you $750. It'll help the donkeys get another bale of hay or two for this week, or maybe get their toes done, shoes shined, and maybe Sandy and Baz might get to have a steak dinner. That'd be nice. Pretty sure they both eat steak. Baz won't have to go out and kill a cow to get it. All the better. So that's my theory on what we do and why we try to do it. last time we were talking, I got stuck into Jody Lowe in the chat. Jody rang me the next day. Turns out he may or may not have been that person in the chat. So there are a lot of dickheads who take different names and do shit. So if that wasn't Jody in the chat, I do apologize. But the sentiment and the example of how that comment was made, it was the comment, if you didn't happen to watch the show, was set up in a way that accused me of supporting the elites. Now, this person who wrote this did so in what I call Freemason script. Freemasons phrase things, they write things, they say things, they frame things a certain way. All right. They take your words, they paraphrase them, they turn them, twist them, and in many cases accuse you of exactly what they are doing. So this is what this person had done. I'm not saying it was Jody, even though that was the name on the chat. I was probably pretty stupid naming him like that because there is no way I can know whether that's the real Jody or not. So my apologies to Jody. He says it wasn't him, and I fully believe that it wasn't him. But if you're going to make stupid comments, I'm probably going to jump on them. So I'm going to learn to be maybe a little bit better with that. Jody did ring me about something else yesterday, looking for a bit of support, and I've got to say I wasn't too forward in offering that support while we tried to figure out what happened the night before in the show. And I will revisit that next week, and we might have a bit of a chat. But yeah, I'm not sure. I really want to find out what it is that's planned, and yeah, not excited, put it that way. There's a few things I'm not excited about. This weekend on the Gold Coast, of course, is the, I don't know, whatever they're calling it, the little get-together, and I think it will be quite a little get-together. The audience will probably be smaller than the speaker list, and most of the speakers aren't going to be in town for it anyway. So a lot of the speakers have dropped out from what I've heard. So this event, the event that will be funding a good many of our usual suspects, well, they'll only be funding them for a reasonable time, depending on how many people go, I guess. Get a bit of an idea for how many people will go on the stream. They're giving out 10,000 free tickets, so that tells me that there's nobody who's really bought the live stream yet. So that's, if they had have sold those 10,000 tickets, that would have been $200,000. If they get, 1,000 people through the door at $20,000 at $20 a head, that's $20,000. So there's another 20 grand. So where does all this money go? That was the question I was going to probably ask the most. If there's $200,000, if you get, let's say you get 20,000 people viewing this event online, 10,000 of which are free, and you've got 10,000 payers, so you've still got $200,000. Where is that money going? Who is it going to? How is it being split up? Are you donating, and what are you donating to? And I'm not going to cast aspersions on who you might be donating to, but are you donating to anything real? I just don't believe this event is worth anyone's time at all. It is simply going to be a cash grab, and it's your cash thereafter. The media... I shouldn't talk about the media awards because I can't stop laughing about it. And I don't mean to be dismissive, but the alt media awards that they've come up with, I will ask you this one thing. And look, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen any nomination papers. Okay? Have you? Have you seen somebody who's, could you nominate someone? I haven't seen nomination papers. Like if I wanted to nominate the Cossack, could I nominate the Cossack? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. And if that is the case, does that just mean they're nominating themselves? Oh, I'm going to win that one, and you're going to win that one. And seems a bit like that to me. The EU has sanctioned the Aussie Cossack, by the way, apparently for interference and disinformation activities. So, I don't know, poor old Simeon, he's copying it left and right. He's still in the Russian consulate, I think, in Sydney. and still doing his show out of there, and he's still organising rallies out of there, still being paid to organise those rallies. And I would be very interested to learn exactly how much of his money he put into the event that's happening this weekend and how much he's going to be getting out of it, along with everybody else who's involved with that, you know? John Wilson's gown. You can't tell me there's not money around there somewhere. So anyway, I'm probably being a bit rude. And I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, but I don't have any faith in what's happening on the Gold Coast this weekend as anything beneficial for you and I, for our movement forward. I know how it will be beneficial to a number of people there, but that certainly is not going to be beneficial to you or I. All that's going to do is help the dickheads get on the road and travel here.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!